Snow White. It was winter. Snow was falling. A queen was sitting by a window with a needle in her hands. She was sewing. Then suddenly, ouch! She pricked her finger. 3 drops of blood fell on the snow. She looked at the red blood on the snow and said, "I wish I had a child, as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony." Soon she had a daughter. She named her Snow White. But the queen got sick and died. The king married again. The new queen was very beautiful, but she was proud, cruel, and jealous. She had a magic mirror. Every day she asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" The mirror always answered, "You, my queen, are the fairest." Snow White grew up. She became more and more beautiful. When she was 7 years old, the queen asked the mirror again. And this time, the mirror said, "You are beautiful, my queen. But Snow White is more beautiful." The queen was very angry. She called the huntsman and said, "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her. Bring me her heart." The huntsman took Snow White into the forest. She cried and said, "Please, let me live. I will run away and never come back, I promise." The huntsman felt pity. He let her go. Instead, he killed the young deer and took its heart to the queen. Snow White ran through the dark forest. She didn't know where to go. She just ran and ran and ran. Finally, she found a small house. She came inside. Everything was very clean and very small. There were 7 plates, 7 cups, and 7 beds. She was very hungry, so she ate a little from each plate and drank a little from each cup. Then she lay down in one of the beds and soon fell asleep. She didn't know that this house belonged to the 7 dwarfs. The 7 dwarfs came home late. They noticed that their house looked different. "Who sat in my chair?" one of them asked. "Who ate from my plate?" another one cried. "Who drank from my cup?" one more said in surprise. Then they saw Snow White sleeping in one of the beds.
Who is she?
They wondered.
What a beautiful girl.
In the morning, she opened her eyes and saw all the 7 dwarfs standing around her. They looked very friendly, and she told them her name and her story. And they said,
We like you very much. If you can do the cooking and make the beds, you can stay with us.
I would like that very much, Snow White answered. And she stayed with the dwarfs. Before leaving for work, the dwarfs always said,
Be careful. Don't open the door to anyone. The Queen is very dangerous.
One day, the Queen asked the mirror again, and the mirror said the truth. Snow White is the most beautiful. So, Snow White is still alive. The Queen was very, very angry. I will take care of this myself, she said. She dressed up as a poor old lady and went into the forest. She found the little house of the dwarfs. Knock, knock, knock. Who is there? The Snow White asked.
A poor old woman,
said a nice voice.
I have something nice for you, child.
The old woman looked kind, and Snow White opened the door a little.
Look at this beautiful belt. You can put it on. Let me help you.
The belt was very pretty, and Snow White agreed. But the old woman pulled the belt so tight that Snow White couldn't breathe and fell down. The Queen laughed and left. That evening, the dwarfs came home and found Snow White lying on the floor. They quickly cut the belt, and she started to breathe again.
Be careful,
they warned.
Don't open the door.
I won't, she promised. As soon as she came back, the Queen asked the mirror again. And it said, Snow White is still the fairest. She was furious. This time she returned to the dwarf's house with a poisoned comb. She knocked again. Snow White remembered the dwarf's warning, but the voice sounded so gentle, so warm. She opened the door just a little.
Just look at this comb. Isn't it lovely? Don't be afraid, it's just a comb. You can try it. Here.
Just as the comb touched Snow White's hair, she fell to the ground. That evening, the dwarfs came home and found her again. They pulled out the comb, and she slowly opened her eyes.
Please, please, Do not open the door again,
they said. When the Queen found out that Snow White was still alive, she made a bright red poisoned apple. It looked fresh, sweet, just perfect. She returned to the little house and spoke in the kindest, sweetest voice of all.
You look sad, my child. I have something that will cheer you up. Look at this apple.
I cannot, Snow White answered. The old woman cut the apple in two. She gave the red half to Snow White and took the other half herself.
Don't be afraid. Have a bite. It's just an apple.
Snow White looked at it. The apple looked delicious. It looked sweet and fresh and juicy. And she took a bite. At once she fell to the ground and didn't move. The Queen laughed. You had the poisoned half. Now I am the fairest. This time the dwarfs could not wake her up.
She looks like she's sleeping,
one of them said softly. They laid Snow White in a glass coffin and placed it in a beautiful place in the forest. One day, a prince was riding through the forest. He saw the glass coffin and stopped. "She is so beautiful," he said. Then he asked the dwarfs, "Can I take her with me?" As they lifted her, they stumbled, and a piece of apple came out of Snow White's mouth. She took a breath and slowly opened her eyes. "Where am I?" she said. The 7 dwarfs cried with joy. The prince took her to his castle, and they were married. It was a great wedding with many guests from far and wide. The Queen was invited too. Some people say that she was made to wear red-hot iron shoes and dance in them until she fell to the ground, dead.